Hello and welcome to another series of working with R in business analytics. Today we're going to have a look at a dataset on hotel bookings. That dataset comes from tidyverse project. This is the data set that you are provided in your VU Collaborate. Now this is the link for the dataset, so let's have a look. The very first thing that you need to have a look when you deal with any data set is you need to look at data dictionary. Data dictionary shows you all the variables that you have in your data set. And we have quite a few of those. Very interesting ones. Now let's think about what type and what kind of business problems we can solve with this data set. The very first variable shows us that we have two types of hotels. We have resort hotels and we have city hotels. I believe this is the location where they are. The next variable shows us the value 1 if the booking was cancelled and 0 if not. So ideally, as a hotel manager, I'm interested to maximize the number of those bookings that are not cancelled so that I'm not losing an opportunity to attract more customers. Potentially, my business problem will be how can I use my data to maximize bookings that are not cancelled. Next one, I'm looking at lead time. So lead time is the variable which shows me number of days that elapsed between the entering date of the booking and the arrival date. So how far in advance people are booking their vacation, how far in advance people are booking their stay. Again, this gives me an idea from the management perspective is how should I orchestrate my marketing campaigns? When should I start offering discounts to fill up the capacity? Who and what is the profile of my customers who book far in advance rather than those who book late? And I also are quite interested to have confirmed bookings, so bookings that are not cancelled far in advance, so I can leverage my load and leverage my bookings. Now next variable look at year of arrival date. So different years may have different patterns. For example, it's very unlikely that in 2020, especially during the COVID time, people traveled and stayed at hotels. So looking at the year of arrival may give me some ideas for my managerial purposes. Next one is the month of arrival. Again, with hotel bookings, they are very sensitive to seasonal changes. So during certain months, during high months, there may be lots of bookings. During other months, there may be less. So again, how should I run my marketing campaigns? How should I run my promotions? Now next one, the week number of year for arrival date. So this may be quite critical when I look at those couples.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Staying with children that they can help me estimate the load. Now next one, number of weekend nights. Number of week nights. So I would probably, even without looking at data, I may say that probably weekend nights will be more popular. So from management perspective, should I run my promotion campaign for weeknights? Again, next data is very interesting. So I'm looking at adults, I'm looking at children, and you see they have different variables for babies. So probably this is because for babies they need to provide baby codes, so they need to have that data recorded separately so that they know that they are not really running out of baby furniture. Now next one, means. So this is where I will be looking at probably maximizing my revenue, and I would be more tempted to attract full board clients rather than those who have no meal packages. Now another one very interesting. So my hotels are located across different countries. So this is where I may be inclined to look at the country. Which country is it coming from and how the pattern differs across different countries. Market segment, so if I'm attracting my customer from travel agents or tour operators. Distribution channel, it's quite interesting to see if that differs from the market segment. Next variable is particularly important. So here I'm looking at repeated guests. So those guests who are quite happy with my services and come back. I definitely want to maximize the number of those repeated guests because attracting a new customer is usually not that cost effective. So I would prefer to keep my current clients. Previous cancellation. So should I consider the history of the client? So should I see like if the client canceled previously? What are the chances for him to get cancelled again? Right? Reserved room type. Alright, so I have quite a few of those. I'm not going to go through all of those, variables, but it will be quite interesting to explore. It's a fantastic data set. We're going to deal with a data set for a few sessions, but today we're looking at data wrangling exercise. So let's have a look how we can get this data set into R. I'm going to my RStudio and I'm opening up a new file. So I'm creating a new file and that will be our markdown file. So I will be looking at hotel bookings and I will be looking at data wrangling. Right, so I'm creating this new R markdown document. It will take a few minutes. Now this is the default template that is created. I don't need all of the template here. So from line 12, I'm removing everything. And I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm just putting a heading saying that I'm going to look at hotel bookings, and that will be basic, tidyverse, and I want tidyverse to be like a code. So basic tidyverse functions. In particular, we're going to look at dplyr functions. So I'm going to reference. So as we know, dplyr is part of the tidyverse. So let me go to the dplyr website. Right, so I've got my tidyverse right here. So this is the tidyverse website. dplyr, so this is the logo. This is the Oxford logo for dplyr. So dplyr is one of the packages that belongs to tidyverse. And we're going to go through main functions for dplyr. Now, so this is where we are. Now, the very first thing we need to do, we need to load our libraries. So I'm including the R chunk, and in the R chunk, I need to specify which libraries I'm going to use. If you haven't installed libraries earlier, you need to run install functions. So in my case, I'm not going to run them because I already have them. So if you don't have them, you need to run install functions. So function. and so that you understand what is happening. So first, packages, and in brackets I need to specify which function, which package I'm going to install. So tidyverse. So this is the command itself, and to put a narration, install packages. Right? So in my case, I already have it installed, so I'm going to comment it out, and like you see, I'm commenting out by putting a hashtag at the start, so it's commenting out. Now, I'm going to use another library, which is Skimmer, so I need to install it as well. And again, I'm just commenting it out because I already have it, and I don't need to install it. So if you remember, Skimmer is a fantastic package which allows me to get an idea of the type of the variables included in my data set. So now I assume that you have them installed, so you can comment them out the way I did. And I'm going straight to libraries. So I'm going to library and I'm loading library tidyverse. And I will be loading library Skimmer. Right? And if you remember, I can run them one by one, or I can run the whole chunk just by pressing this button. So you see this little red thing shows me that I'm running the code. So and the code is and the packages are loaded. Now packages are loaded. So next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go and I'm going to get the code of how to import my data set into R. So you see, like here, I'm going to tidy choose the web page, and in tidy choose the web page, it shows me get the data here. So I'm just doing just copying this and going straight to my R and loading it there. So my data will be recorded in the variable which is called hotel. Now I'm going to use a read Csv function from tidyverse, and if you remember, this prefix here shows me that I'm referring to a read package, which is part of my tidyverse. I can keep it as it is, or just because I'm using the library and I'm loading the whole package tidyverse, I can actually remove this bit and just start with a read CSV. So this line will be executed and will be doing exactly the same as what this line was doing. So there is no basically big difference for me. So let's run this line only. So I'm just going to command enter, control enter, and now let's give it a go. So now the package, the library, the data set is loaded, and this is my data set. So if I want to have a look at my data set, I want to present first 6 rows, I'm going hat and I'm putting at hotels. Right. So now I'm looking at first 6 lines. And now if I go further and I use the skim function from skimmer package and I include hotels, it's going to show me what type of variables I have. Right. So I've got character variables, which we're going to cover next week, and it also have dates. It also have numeric, and it doesn't have any factors. So I'm not quite sure that if all the data are recorded using the proper types, and I will be fixing this in my next tutorial video. But today we're just going to start with the basic dplyr manipulations. So let's have a look. So the data is loaded and it's all here. Now I have 32 variables there, and I've got 120,000 observations, which is quite a lot. Now let's have a look. So let's have a look at what we can do. So the very first function I'm going to start with, count, and I want to count how many, and I want to see how many countries I have and how many observations I have for each country. Now, so let's put a heading here, and let's say we're going to use two functions. One is distinct function, and another function which we're going to use will be count, and we're also going to use add count. So how do they differ? Right. So I'm including my R chunk, and let's have a look. I'm taking my data set hotels, and I'm piping it, and I'm piping it to the function which is distinct. Now, if you're not sure what distinct function is doing, I'm going to my help tab, and I'm looking at my help tab here. Right? So it allows me to see unique, distinct rows in my data. So let's say that I want to see how many different countries I have covered by this data set. So I'm going to hotels, and now I need to pull up the variable which shows me countries. Then I can go to the data dictionary at Tidy Tuesday webpage, and I also can see it here. So I will be looking at, so have a look. At the country, so country, they use codes here, and also have a look. I haven't saved my IMG document, so I need to go and save it. So that will be my hotel bookings data wrangling. So now I'm taking hotels variable, I'm piping it to distinct function, and now in brackets I need to specify a particular variable which I want to have a closer look, and that will be country. Right? So now let's find that chunk and let's see what is going to add. So now it shows me the data of 178. So in total I have 178 distinct observations. Now let's see how distinct differs from count. Right, so I'm going to use exactly the same data set, so hotels, and now I'm piping it to not distinct but count. So count, and let's say I want to count, and I want to count countries. So everything is the same, I'm just changing the function. Right? So let's go and have a look. So I'm writing it here. So have a look what has happened. Distinct function just give me a list of unique countries, and here when I use count, it allows me to see how many observations I have for each country. Now I want to see now how many different types of hotels I have per each country. So what I can do, I can go to hotels, I'm piping it to count, but now in my count I'm specifying country, and I'm specifying hotel. And let's say that I want to have this list sorted. So how you can check how you do this, you go to the help and you type it there. Now count is part of tally, right? So I'm going and looking for tally now. So tally is also count, part of a dplyr or tally, right? And it shows me that if I want to sort, I need to include another argument here, which is sort. So I need to put sort. And now by default it's false, but I want to put it to true. So my dataset is sorted. And now let's execute this dataset. So I have looked the most of my observation come from city hotel. See, it's like a vast majority. So PRT. So we need to check up. Probably that's Portugal. So the majority of those hotels are there. It's quite interesting. Now, this is how distinct differs from count. Now we also have another variance of count, which is at count. Now let's look how that differs. So I'm going to take my hotels and I'm going to pipe it. And now have a look. I'm going to copy this line. Alright, so I'm going to copy this line and I'm going to put it here. But instead of count, I'm going to use add count, keeping everything the same. Now have a look. I'm going to save this new dataset. So these datasets are not saved. Now I'm going to save that dataset, say hotels counted. And I'm going to put the assignment size. So what is happening here? I'm taking my hotels dataset, I'm piping it to add count, and the result will be saved in this new dataset. Now I'm saving this, and now I want to have a look how it is going to look on the page. So I'm going and need it. You remember, because I'm dealing with IMD document, I'm not going to execute it to run it. I'm going to need it. So I'm using my data set. So you see like that the red sign, which shows me that my page is being generated. Now let's have a look. It will take a while. So now this is the page that's been generated for me. So I can have a look at this under viewer. Right. And I also can pull it up in a browser window. So this is my use of distinct. So you see, it just shows me the list of those countries. And now this is the use of count, which shows me countries and shows me number of observations. Now this is where I included type of the hotel and I included sorting. And now I have this line here and I don't have results on the page. So why is that happening? It's just because I'm saving all the output to my new variables hotel counted. So if I go under my environment now, eventually I will be able to see it recorded there. So if I'm running this code now, so you see that it's been executed and that variable is created. I can keep using it. Awesome. So that was the use of distinct and count and add count. Now let's move on and let's have a look at fantastic function which allows us to put groupings into my data set. So let's have a look how we can use group by. So now we're going to use group by function with we're going to use it with mutate and transmute. Right. so mutate allows me to add variables to the existing dataset, and transmute. It's a very similar operation, but we're going to have a look how they differ. Transmute, and we're also going to explore the use for summarize. As you know, we can use both types of spelling with Z and with S. So let's have a look. We're going to include the adjunct here, and let's have a look. When I group my variables, it creates internal groupings which are not really visible on the dataset, but all the operations or the manipulations that I do with my dataset will be on the level of the groupings. And the word of caution, like whenever you use group by, you always need to remember to ungroup. So let's have a look what we can do. So let's assume that I'm going to use the function summarize just on its own without groupings. So what I can do, I am taking my hotels dataset and I'm piping it through to, oops, there's this typo, and I'm putting it to summarize. Now I'm putting it in summarize, and again, so what summarize is doing, it allows me to summarize my data. So I'm going to my help file just to see what summarize is doing. So it's part of the dplyr package, right? So part of the dplyr, so you see it's referenced over here, right? And I also can see the description of this function. It's one of the main functions in dplyr. So it's always given here under dplyr. So it allows me to summarize my data set based on some functions which I wanted to do. Right? So the best thing about help in R is just it gives you lots of alternative functions to use. And it also gives you a lot of examples. So whenever I see the function, the first thing I read about the syntax of the function, and then I go and have a look at the function. So let's have a look how we can use this. So let's assume that I want to summarize my data set, and I want to have a look at, let's say, at the average lead time. So at the average lead time. So how do I do this? So if I go hotel and I go summarize, so I want to summarize by lead time. So I have a look. So this is what is happening. Right? And it shows me the summary of the lead time. Just a summary, but that's it. So it's not really what I wanted to do. So I need to include a function. So I need to include average lead time, and that will be equal. So the function I'm going to use, I'm going to take a mean. I'm going to take a mean of the variable, which is lead time. So lead time. And now I have a look, I'm running this. And it shows me that the average lead time for the whole data set is 104 days. Now, this is just the use of the summary. So you see, like, eventually the result is only one number. Now, how group by is going to change this arrangement? So if I'm going to hotels, and I'm typing my hotels not to summarize straight, but to group by. And let's say that I'm going to group my countries by type of the hotel. So I'm including hotel, which creates that internal grouping. And now I pipe it further, and I pipe it to, let's say, exactly the same function summarize. Right? And I'm just copying everything the same, so I'm going to keep everything the same. You just group by and include it. So it's there. Now, if I just run this particular line, so have a look what is going to happen. So here, the new thing is now all observations are grouped by the type of the hotel, and it shows me the average lead time based on the type of the hotel. Now I can go to the next level and I can say, so now I not only that I wanted to have the type of the hotel, but I also want to have country. And depending on where you put country before hotels or after hotel, that will affect the time, that will affect the representation, it will affect how your averages are calculated. So let's say that I want to include country at the start, and I'm running this example here now. So I only changed this little thing, so I included another variable to group. So you see, like now when I'm running this, my data set, my Mutate data set shows me countries and shows me how my different types of hotel do in terms of lead time, average lead time across those countries. So really cool way of seeing this. Now that was the use of summarize function. Now let's compare this to the use of mutate and transmute. Alright, so let's compare to mutate and transmute. Right? And again, I am including my R chunk here. And now let's have a look. So I'm going to take hotels, I'm going to pipe it, and I'm going now to use not summarize, but I'm going to use, let's say, transmute. And I'm using exactly the same, so I'm using the average lead time, so I'm keeping everything the same. So let's make it PG, so let's put that order, and now let's run it. So if I'm running this, have a look what transmute is doing. Transmute is just calculating average time and have a look how many rows I've got. I got so transmute adds variable to every single observation. So in my new data set, I've got exactly the same observations as in my original data set. So it doesn't shrink my data set, it keeps it the same. But again, so the time that is provided here is average lead time for the whole data set. So let's change the arrangement and let's include group by. So I'm piping hotels, not straight to transmute, but I'm piping it to group by. And let's say that now I want to group my observations by country and hotel. Right? And now I'm going to pipe it further, and I'm going to add not summarize, but I'm going to use transmute. And my calculation for transmute, again, I will be keeping them exactly the same. So I will going to use average lead time, and I'm going to use means. And again, I'm running this one. And have a look what's going to happen. So it's generating me a new data set. In that new data set, I only have a look, I only have 3 variables. I have country, I have hotel, and I have average lead time. Right? What if I want to add variable to my existing data set? Let's have a look. So if I want to add a variable to my existing data set, I'm going to take hotels, I'm going to pipe them, and I'm going to use, again, group by. Everything's the same, so I'm quite lazy. I'm going to copy this over. I'm typing it further, and now instead of transmute, I'm going to use mutate. And it will be exactly the same function. Right. Now have a look at what is going to happen. So at this stage, I've got observation of 32 variable, right? Now, this is with transmute. So transmute generates a new data set and just adds one new variable, which is averagely time. Now, let's have a look what is going to happen if I'm going to use mutate. And by the way, when I'm going to mutate the data set, I definitely need to ungroup. So my internal groupings should be removed after complete. Let's have a look. So I am running this particular chunk. Now let's have a look what is going to happen. So in my new data set, I have 33 observations. Now if I want to keep that new data set, I need to save it. So I'm going to hotels, and I'm going to do the assignment. So I can assign it to itself, or I can assign it to hotels new. So I can compare this bit. Now have a look. So I'm running this, so compare hotels new 33 to hotels with just 32 variables. So we're finalizing this video at this stage. That was a video that demonstrates the use of group by with mutate and transmute versus summarize, and we also looked at a difference between using distinct and count. We haven't and we used add count as well. So don't forget to save your work, and thank you for watching. Hopefully that was useful.